Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. Feel free to post in the chats.
Yes, let us know where you guys are from. Let us know what time is it there. Let us know how's your day been. Just let's get this started in a couple of minutes. Just still waiting for people to join in, and then we can get started. Meanwhile, I'm actually going to introduce myself. My name is Pooja. I am a customer success manager here at inFlow. What I do is I feel like a lot of people might have spoken to me at some point. Wherever you join, I'm using inFlow, and then I'm basically the one who teaches you how to use it, or it trains you how to use inFlow. But yeah, that's sort of what I do here, and I'm gonna pass it on to Kat. Please feel free to introduce yourself.
Thank you, Pooch. Hi, everyone. My name is Kat or Katya. I am the customer success team lead here at inFlow. I also was a customer success manager and still kind of am. I'm still maybe chatting to some of you guys through emails and on calls. But yes, I'm super excited to be co-hosting here with Pooja. She is kind of the behind the scenes person for webinars. You guys might not see her on camera as much, but she's the one who's helping come up with these topics and get everybody hosting. So huge props to Pooja for all the hard work she does. Even though she might not always be on camera, but I'm happy she's hosting this session. For some of you guys, you might have joined our part one to this. So we hosted how to import new information into inFlow. I think like a couple months ago, probably March. And so today is kind of like a part two to that. We're going to be explaining how you can update information with imports. And so it is going to be a bit of a simpler webinar today, but super important. And Pooja, I'll let you take it away.
Thank you. And we see that Kosti, our moderator, has joined in. If Kosti, if you want to introduce yourself, or if that's okay, if you don't want to, it's as well.
Hello everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Hi everyone. I hope yeah, my name is Kostya and I hope you will enjoy this webinar with Pooja, Katya and me of course.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Kosti. So
Kosti.
Kosti is our support rep, and I feel like again, so many of you might have already spoken to Kosti over like chats or like emails, and like one of the best support reps. Actually, all of our support reps are the best in the world. I'm not gonna take any arguments against that. So yeah, thank you, Kosti, for introducing yourself. I am going to start sharing my screen really quickly so we can get started. And we were experiencing a little bit of technical issues from my end, so feel free to pop it in the chat, and if you have any questions, if I'm going too fast or anything like that. But yeah, let me know. I feel like you should be able to see my whole screen. Oops, I don't know why I did that. Okay. Inflow updating with imports. So welcome everybody. And again, it's us, Pooja, Katya, and Kostya, and this is our webinar on updating with imports. We're going to be discussing these things for today's topics: how to update product details, and what exactly in the product details file can you update, can you bulk update in Inflow using the product details file, stock levels, how to mass update your stock levels in Inflow, your purchase and your sales orders and your vendors, your customers, reorder settings. And then Kat is going to then take over to show you a little bit of how the manufacturing side of Inflow works with our bills of materials, manufacture settings, and operations. So we have a lot to discuss today. And I am going to again start sharing my account with you. So as you guys might be aware, this is the inflow account. This is basically what you would see once you have created your inflow account and once you have imported a few things here and there into inflow. Let's start with the product details or the products. So there might be a situation where you guys might have imported your products, some of your products, but they might not look the way exactly that you want them to look like. For example, the name. you want to add any specifications to the name, or you want to change the SKU of the products, add the categories to the products, barcodes. There are so many things that we can include in here to make sure that the products that you see on the inFlows webpage actually depicts a true and clear and a fair picture of what products should look like even in real life for your actual company. So again, so many things that you can add in here. Again, I have a list of all of these products which if you have been one of my customers, you know that I for some reason love grocery stores, and I always keep giving examples of like apples and bananas. But yeah, I have created a fake grocery store as my product. So basically, what do you have to do? And this applies to everything. What would you do if you have to update anything in inFlow? Be any of those 8 things that I spoke about earlier. There are 3 easy steps, and I need you guys to remember these with me. 3 easy steps, and say it after me. Say it however you do, just remember however you want to. Export, change in CSV, and import. It's as simple as that. Export the details that you want to change or make changes in the CSV file that you are going to make changes in, and then import the changed or the updated CSV file back into inFlow. So yeah, let's get that started and let's see what we can update over here. So there might be a possibility where your product names, you have your product names, but you want to change, or you want to bulk change your product names to make them more in tune with your business. So let's say you don't just want it to be apples, you want it to be a specific breed of apple called let's say the Fuji apple, or you need it to be the iceberg lettuce, or you need it to be a specific type of milk. So in order to change your product names, again, it's the same 3 steps. Go to export. So let's say you're on this page, you go into the gear icon on the bottom left, export product details. Now, what this is going to do is it is going to export everything that you already have in your product details into a file. So if I open this for you right here, if you guys can see this, it gave me a list of all of the products with the SKUs and everything that I already have in inFlow. I'm going to actually take a minute to explain to you all of these different things right here and what these different columns mean. The first is very simple, which is the product name. This and the SKUs, these are the two things. Not even SKU actually, but the product name is the main thing that you're gonna have to remember, or you have to remember to put in and tie it up with your inFlow products to make sure that the imports are going on or are coming in properly. What does that mean is that your product name is your unique identifier. And if you want to change anything with the product name called Apple in inFlow, it needs to correlate to the product name called Apple in the CSV file. For whatever reason, in the CSV file, if you have an extra letter called apples or bananas or anything else, it is going to assume that it's a new product and it's going to create a duplicate product for you. So, just to reiterate, to avoid all of that, we need to make sure that the product name is unique and exactly what it looks like in inFlow. Kat, is everything fine? Do we have any questions? Am I going too fast? Anything?
No, perfect. I see Costa's been adding tips as well about, what you just mentioned right now is ensuring that the product name matches so that you can update the rest of the information. But just to answer Catherine in the chat, she was asking if we can export individual items instead of all items. Not in the web app. In the desktop app, if you still do use that, there is a way where you can kind of filter your products and export that information. But in the web app, it would export all of your product details. This is slightly different for sales orders and purchase orders where you can set a date range. Oh,
correct.
You guys can hear me okay, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, perfect. Sorry, I thought I cut out a little bit.
All good.
Awesome.
Okay, perfect. No, that made complete sense. So just again, if anybody was not able to listen to what Kat was saying, You are not able to export individual products as CSV files through the web application at the moment. I don't think that is an update we are looking into getting into inflow, but we would love any product feedback that you have, and we'll be happy to share it with the team as well. Another thing, actually, we forgot to mention this in the beginning. Please remember all of this that we're talking about, because we have a very fun quiz at the end where we are going to be asking you very fun little questions that we've spoken about already in the webinar. And you have a chance to earn $100 gift card. So please feel free to to just remember everything, ask your questions if you have any, and like, yeah, just yeah, again, don't stress too much. It's simple, fairly simple, but yeah, just remember all of this. Another thing, so again, because we're still talking about imports and everything, so let's say you want to mass update the categories, right? So again, what is important to include in that update, in the updated CSV, is the product name, which is the most important thing, and the category, which of course which you're going to be changing. Let's say if you want to do the SKU, make sure you have the product name and the SKU, and you can leave the rest of the things empty or blank or delete them if you don't need to update those things. But just make sure that you have the product name, which is your unique identifier, and the thing that you're actually importing. Another thing, what else can you change using a product details file? I'm going to actually make a green color on the things that you can change and a red on the things that you can't change. So you can change the product name, which I can speak about in a minute. You can change the SKU, you can change the category, but, and remember this, you cannot change the item type. Once you create an item type in inflow, it is set there in stone, and you cannot change the item type from, let's say, a stocked product to a non-stocked product, or a stocked product to a serialized product. You cannot change that. If you do want to change it though, what you can do is you can basically, let's say apples is something that you want to change, right? From, let's say, stocked product to non-stocked product. Change the name of the product which is going to be deleted or which you need to change, and create a new product, and then just basically call it non-stock or whatever you want to call it. What this does, it basically creates a new product for you with that new name. Okay, so I'm gonna actually now get into the fun part, which is actually demoing how to do all of this. Again, I feel like you can change a lot of these, but like item type is one which you absolutely cannot change or like update later on. Okay, so let's say you want to change the product name of your products into basically new product names. What you need to do in order to do that is you have to create a new column and call it desired name. What this does is that it basically tells inflow that the product name that I have, I'm going to change it into the desired name. Now I have already a list of the products with the names already created. So I'm just going to copy this actually really quickly. I'm going to very quickly speak about what these are. But I'm basically, if you want, again, what I was talking about earlier, you want the names to be more specific. These are basically the specific names or the desired names that you want to do. So let's actually try and do the desired names import first. So I'm going to close out of this. I'm going to go back. So now we're on the third step. So we did the export, we did the change, and now we're doing the import. So again, the gear on the bottom left, we're doing the product details. So it has to be in the product details. Drag and drop the CSV file that you want to do. And I'm just going to do the one with the desired names. No, I don't think this is the correct one. I feel, okay. I think this is the correct one. Okay. And then let me just double check just to make sure. Okay, yeah, this is the correct one. Okay. And then I'm going to hit next. And this is where it gets interesting. This is what you would see in like a normal import. But because this is the one with the desired name, which is the change name or whatever you want to call it, right below product name, you will see the words change name. Click on that and make sure that you're mapping it correctly. So desired name is obviously your desired name, and the current name is the product name that you have as of right now. And as soon as I import it, and let's give it a couple of seconds because yeah, this is not going to take a lot of time. Um, Refreshing it just to make sure it came in properly, and voila. So now, as you can see, we have very successfully changed the names of the products into what we need the names of the products to be. Now I'm going to now do this a little quickly, just so that we have enough time to cover everything. So this was one of the main things that I wanted to show you guys as to how to change the desired or like the names of the products. Now let's say you want to change the SKUs. So I'm gonna actually take one product and I'm gonna change actually everything for that one product. So I'm getting rid of this one and I'm just going to keep this. Let's say for the Fuji apple, for example, SKU is going to be the same. Let's say I want to change the SKU to 5,000 for the Fuji apple. You can also add categories. Now, if you guys, if I show you guys my current categories, inventory product categories. If I show you my current categories, you can see that I don't have a lot of categories already put in, right? But if I take my categories over here and hold on, if I take my categories and I import the like or input the categories right here in the actual category list, which again I already have a created file for that, so that would not or not. Oh, there it is. So this is, let's say these are the categories that are created with inFlow, right? Fruits, which is the apple, fruits, vegetables, and dairy. These are the different categories. Now, if you remember, because we changed the names, these names are not really going to work. So I'm going to very quickly copy the names just to make sure that the names actually come in properly. So Fuji apple is under fruits, seedless bananas are under fruits, and I'm going to very quickly change the SKU just to show you guys how that's going to work. And again, you cannot change the item type. What else can you change? You can change the default unit price of the product. Let's say you are selling the apple for, let's say, $1.99. You can put in the unit price for the apple right there as well. If you have a fixed markup, now what that means is that if you have the cost of the product and if you have a fixed markup or a fixed profit percentage of, let's say, 10%, and you want to apply that to the product every time, we can also do that right here. So in that same example, I'm going to take the seedless banana as an example. Let's say the cost of buying a banana is 99 cents. We want it to have a fixed markup, and so we're going to change the false to true, saying that yes, we want to have a fixed markup, and the markup is going to be 10%. So I'm just going to put the 10. It is going to assume that is percentage. That's how inFlow already does it. So
Pooja.
again, the markup is yes.
Sorry, my apologies. Just
Okay.
to quickly interrupt, because I just wanted to take a pause for
Yes.
some of the questions.
Sure.
Just because you are kind of going over it right now, and you input it in markup. But for example, there are some people who will not be updating everything on the sheet. They might have some blanks in their sheet. This was a question from, I believe it was Mindy.
Mhm.
They were asking just if we will leave a blank column, if there's already information in inFlow, it will update that information and erase the that existing data in inFlow if you leave it blank. Can you, as you're going to be importing this, just show how to essentially not include certain columns during the import, when
Sure.
we are mapping? So if you don't mind showing that when you import this one.
I don't know if this helps, but like the serial prefix, suffix, etc., is blank. Let's say we take the description, right? So okay, very quickly, that's a good example because very quickly. So let's say for the Fuji apple, right? We have something in the description calling it the red apple juicy. That's what you want to put in the description. Now, in the actual sheet, and I have so many sheets for some reason open. Yeah, in the sheet, I'm leaving the description for the Fuji Apple blank. And Kat, correct me if I'm not doing exactly what Mindy asked. But let's say I'm leaving the description for the Fuji Apple blank. It is not going to erase anything. It is just going to leave it as it is. So what inFlow does is that it will not touch, at least in the product details. Sorry, Kat.
Uh, if you ensure that when we're data mapping, that we
Yes.
erase that column, so which in the next, I guess, step, we can show them
Yes.
how to ensure that even if you have it blank in the
Mhm.
CSV, as long as you don't have it mapped out, it won't touch the information. So yeah, I'll let you continue,
Absolutely
Pooja.
can show that 100%. So actually, because again, because we're still talking about this, let me just put in a description of the on the banana, and I know we're gonna leave it not mapped, but just in case we wanted to, show how that goes. So again, at this moment, we have the possibility of changing the description, bar the mapping thing. We have the ability of changing the SKU, the categories, not the item type, the description, default unit price, markup, cost of the product. Now this is also very important, and I need you guys to very clearly listen to this. But let's say I am mapping the cost of the product for us for some of these things at, let's say, $3 for the clementines, $2, $5, and I'm just going to very quickly just like add in random numbers. This is the cost of the product, which also you can update. You can put in the last or the default vendor. Now I know there's like a lot of information here. We might not have time to go through all of these, but like you have, let's say, your barcode. If you want to add, you can put in the barcode as well. If you have a default vendor and a price specific to that vendor. What that means is that, let's say, you buy from Walmart and Loblaws, and Canadian customers, you know exactly what Loblaws is. So, but like if you're buying from Walmart and Loblaws, if they're charging you different prices, you can absolutely note that down over here as well. But this is only for the default vendor. Again, huge different conversation. And then your unit of measure, etc. All of these things that you can already add in inflow. And keep in mind this last column, which says is active. Now, let's okay. I'm gonna come to is active later on, but yeah, all of these things you can save it, and then I'm gonna very quickly save this file, and I'm going to import that into inflow. So again,
And
imports
what
will be export. Yes.
Sorry, one more thing to add, just because you went over it, because I think Eric was asking this question. If I understood it correctly, if you have a vendor product name that you are not using for your own inventory, for example, your vendor calls it Fuji apples and we call it red Fuji apples, you can have that as your vendor code instead. Or, for example, if you also have a vendor code, you could put, let's hypothetically say 001 dash and then the vendor product name in there as well, because that will show up on your purchase orders. So yes, if you are using a
Yes.
slightly different name for your vendor products versus how you actually name it in info, ensure you use that vendor product code field.
Exactly. Thank you for mentioning that. But yes, you're absolutely correct. This section under the actual product where you see product vendors, this is where you can list a list of all of your vendors, your different vendors that you buy the product from, and what that person is calling the product. Also, if there is a lead time for that for you to get the product, you can add it in here as well. And if there is a different vendor price for the product, let's say vendor one is charging you $1.99, you can put that in here as well. But if somebody else is charging you, let's say vendor two is charging you vendor two, and they're charging you let's say $1.50, you can also add it in there as well. And you're, let's say, they call it 4011, for example, and you can put all of that in there as well. Now your default vendor is going to be the one that you mark it as starred right here. So again, remember this because this is important for reordering and everything. I'm gonna save this very quickly. And again, guys, I need to go a little fast because we didn't realize again that I'm just talking too much today. Import, and then again product details. Now we're doing the same thing that we've been doing with the categories, and this is where what Kat was talking about with the mapping. This is the mapping. This is what the mapper looks like. So let's say description is what we were talking about, right? Let's say if we don't want to import the description, we can just hit the actual field and clear it. And now when I import it, it is not going to get the description in there. One more thing that you guys have to remember is cost. Cost is not automatically mapped. So if you do want to map the cost, um, like you actually, your goal is to map the cost, then you have to go in here and actually put in the cost. We do this so that you don't accidentally change the cost of your products. And then so these are all of the different mappers where you can leave them blank if you need to, and or just like map them however you need to map them. And when I hit import, hit OK, go to my products and just give it like 30 seconds. But I don't think we need it because as you can see, we have the categories already created by inFlow. So if you remember, these are the categories inFlow already created. So that's a good thing so that you don't have to create them separately. It imported, again, red juicy apple, but then that's something that I already put in. But then, so if you guys remember, I changed the SKU as well for the apple. I put in the cost for the apple. I put in the normal price for the apple, which is basically your unit price or selling price for the apple. Again, just like it has very successfully done everything for me. So if you remember, I had put in the cost for the different products in here, and it's very nicely brought everything in. Now, this product, if you guys remember, we did the fixed markup for. What it basically did is that it made it advanced, and it gave it a fixed markup of 10%, so that anytime my cost goes up, let's say I'm going to show you to, let's say, $1.10, it automatically changed the sales price to $1.21, which is basically it applied the 10% markup to the cost. So yeah, you can also do this as well.
One, sorry, I
It's okay.
apologize because we have a couple cost questions.
Yes.
So Michelle had asked, does updating the cost override the costing method? No. Your costing method is set via your settings. And so let's say hypothetically, if you have first in, first out, or last in, first out, I know Pooja will be probably maybe covering this a little bit. It will not allow you to actually make those changes for the cost because your cost will be set based on your purchasing history. So your purchase orders will have the costs in there. If you have it set to moving average or manual, you can still update the existing cost. But for example, moving average will still look at the cost that you purchased at. So you can update costs for some of those costing methods, but for the most part, we do still recommend tracking majority of your costing through purchase orders, because if you need to make any changes on your purchase order costs, you can still do that. They're not locked. You can go back, and that keeps a historical record of everything that you brought in. And then,
Yeah.
sorry, I think there was one other question about cost. Maybe that was it, actually.
Okay.
Sorry.
No,
I know there's been a couple of questions, and Cost has
No,
been
this is
answering
good.
them as well.
This is good because I actually, that was literally my next point as to like which costing methods can, or like which costing methods would let you update the cost through a CSV. And to be very honest, manual, yes, but like to be very honest, moving average is the only one that will let you import your different costs through product details. Again, moving average is the only one. If you are using FIFO or LIFO, this cost will be locked out, it will be grayed out, and you will not be able to change it. And the only way to change it would be to create a historical record of you actually purchasing that product. Let's say you purchased the seedless bananas for $1.10, and it is going to use FIFO to get rid of the $1.10 bananas first, and then whatever. But yeah, you can only use purchase orders for that. So yeah, remember this little point as well. Okay.
Yeah, and just
You
sorry, because I think you said it
Yes.
quickly. Just to confirm again, guys, moving average and manual both allow you to be well to change it via CSV. LIFO, FIFO do not.
Do not.
Those
Exactly.
are
Correct.
hopefully easy enough to remember.
Exactly. Again, we're making it very easy for you guys because we're very specifically being like, remember this, guys, because it's going to be important. Okay. Next is actually where how do you mass or bulk deactivate your products? So let's say you have a list of all your products, but there are some products that you need to delete for whatever reason, etc. Now keep in mind, inflow will never actually completely delete anything, any product or any customers or anything. It will only deactivate it and put it in the background so that it's not actually affecting anything. But if you've, let's say, you've sold that product in the past, it will still come up in reporting. So if your question is, how do I completely delete anything? There's no way to do it until and unless you actually like completely reset your database, like go from like zero. So to deactivate products, I'm going to take the same sheet that we've been working on actually. Um, and so if you guys remember, I was talking about this very last column right here, which says is active. Just gonna bold it with yellow just so that you guys can see it. But if you see is active, and right now they say true. If you want to mass or bulk delete or deactivate your products, all you have to do is put false wherever you want to deactivate that product. So let's say, what product is this? I think this is the milk that I'm deactivated. And then let's say these last two products I am deactivating. So what are these products? Very quickly, the iceberg lettuce and the milk, I am deactivating by putting it false, putting is active as false under the is active column. Now when I go in and I import this file, you will see that inflow has, and of course I have no clue which one I use. Let's say this one. Next. And again, all of this is already mapped. So if you want it to go in as it is, you can. And then this is the last one, the one with is active, and then import. Okay. Again, I'm not sure if I use the right sheet. So bear with me for 1 second. Um, okay. Okay, yeah. So if you guys can see, I've already deleted, or it has already deleted the two products with the milk and the iceberg lettuce. Okay, I'm actually now going to start moving on to stock levels. Now, stock levels is something which is a second update, and which cannot be done through product details. Again, I am going to go a little fast because we have a lot to speak about. But stock levels, the way you can mass update your stock levels is you go into the settings again, you export. Actually, okay, I'm going to show you the export, but you guys might not like it because when I export it, it is only going to give me products that actually have stock in it. But so if you see right now, I have nothing that I imported or exported through the stock levels because I don't really have a quantity on hand. Now, what do you guys need to do? Let's say I'm going to be using the clementines as an example. Let's say if you have 5 clementines, right? And if you want to basically mass update the clementines to go from 5 to whatever number, I go again to the gear, export, stock levels, export, and it's going to create that file for me. So if you see, it gave me everything. Now if you have to, for whatever reason, change the stock from one location to another location, or from one sublocation to another sublocation, what you have to actually do, the first thing you have to do is you have to make it zero first, and then you can update it. So you have to basically go to Clementine's default location, make this quantity as zero first, so that it will actually zero out the Clementines in that actual default location. And then you can, and give me 1 second because I already have a sheet ready for this. And then you can basically put in the actual location and the quantity for those products. So I'm just gonna copy this. So if you see, I minused the clementines, but I'm actually adding it, and I have to change the name, but I'm actually adding it under this other default location and some location. I also want to show you guys something very quickly, but let me just fix this really quickly so that my names don't screw with me. I should
And this
have.
is a good example, just as Pooja's doing this,
Mhm.
how important product name is for you guys. That's why she's making the changes, because originally when she was doing her first example, she had changed them from the basic name of apples, bananas, oranges to Fuji apples, clementines, and I know the milk was at like 3.25%. So we want to make sure that if you're making any other imports or updates, if you did change the product name to a different name, make sure you're changing it in here. That's why the 3 steps that Pooja referred to at the beginning, export, update, import, is probably going to be your best method, because when you export, it's already going to have the current information. Pooja's just working with multiple spreadsheets, and some of you guys might be doing this as well, where you have so many Excels open. So it's just making sure you're using the most up-to-date information. So when you import again, it's not making unnecessary changes that you didn't plan for. So that's why
Exactly.
Pooja had made these
Because
changes right now.
it's going to because if I did do it the other way, it would actually create new products for me, calling them apples or whatever. And yeah, huge mess. And in order for us to avoid the mess, we have to make sure that the product names need to be proper. Now, if you remember, or I don't think you might remember, but because I didn't show it to you guys, but we don't have, the only location we have is the default location, and we have no sub locations. My point of showing this to you guys is that when you import something through a stock levels import, inFlow will actually create the location and the sub location for you if you want to add it in the stock levels. So even if I use this sheet, and I will show you guys what I mean, import and stock levels. And this is, I'm pretty sure this was the thing. Again, the mapping. This is going to be interesting. Again, very quickly, if you are setting the inventory levels to what is being imported, if you want your sheet numbers to be the numbers in inFlow, you have to keep the first option, which is set inventory levels to what's being imported. If you want to, let's say, if you want to add 10 apples to the 60 that you already have, that is when you add it. And if you want to subtract 10 apples from what you already have, you go to subtract. But right now we're just going to keep it as set inventory levels, and all of these will be automatically mapped. Like the same question again with what Mindy asked, if I don't want to do cereals, you can just literally clear out of it and then import. And then when I go back to my products, hopefully everything is importing properly. And there you go. Again, okay. So if you remember, I zeroed out the clementines from the default location just so that we don't want there to be duplicate products. But if you see, it very correctly created the grocery store warehouse for me as my location, and it also created the sub locations for me right there. Okay, this is an amazing example, guys, because Fuji Apple versus Fuji apples. I might have not imported it correctly, and that's why I created a whole new product with like Fuji apples versus Fuji apple. So again, why that's so important. Again, it created the grocery store, it created the sub location for me very correctly. Okay, this is stock levels import. Again, I'm going to be very quick and move on to Kat.
One quick thing I just want to mention with importing, there are times where people do make mistakes. It does happen to the best of us. If that ever does happen, and let's say you imported, 1,000 lines, and now you have all these products, one of the things you can do is deactivate. But if it's a lot of changes that you're making, feel free to also reach out to us, because something that we can do on the back end for large changes, if you did it by accident, is we can revert back to the time before the change. This is only something we do in exceptional circumstances, but this is why I'm mentioning it, is if you did an update for 1,000 items and you did it incorrectly, feel free to reach out to us and we can help out.
Yeah. Only okay. Yeah, so yeah, I'm not gonna go into much detail there, but Kat is absolutely correct. Feel free to reach out to either us, your CEO or actual CSM or the support team. Just whenever you're doing this, just remember the point in time you made that change so that we know where to go back to. So just again, just remember the time that you made that import, just so that we know what to backtrack to. Okay. So now very quickly, I'm going to show you guys how to update sales orders. I'm going to create a fake sales order with a fake customer very quickly. Create, and so this is a situation where you're not importing sales order, but you're making bulk changes to the sales orders that you already have in inflow. If you want to import new sales order, feel free to check out our previous webinar where we actually show you how to import like new fresh sales orders from like your previous software that you were using or from wherever. But yeah, make sure to check that one out. I'm going to very quickly default, not default location, the grocery store. Okay. And then let's say the clementines for $6 and the Fuji apples for 4.99. I'm gonna save that. Now if you guys see, I have a sales order created, I have the products in the sales orders already done. There are two phases to this entire thing, right? And I'm going to export the sales order and show you what those two phases are. One phase is that you only want to go in and change the amount and the date paid for this sales order. So let's say let's say you have this is a sales order and you want to change the amount, the date that you paid, that you made the paid changes to, and the actual amount that you paid. I'm going to leave one as zero, but I'm going to put in one as, let's say, $3. Let's say you partially paid it, and the date that was paid was today's date, that was May 5 to, no wait, it's not May 5, it's May 13 2025. um, what I'm doing basically, I'm telling inflow that I paid my sale, or sorry, that I was paid for the sales order in partial on this date and the amount paid. So if you want to change the payment, you do it through these two columns, which is date paid and amount paid. I'm going to very quickly save that. And again, remember, this is only for payment and not for fulfillment. I'll show you the fulfillment in 1 second. Import. Now make sure when you're importing it, you're doing the actual sales order. Drag and drop sales order. This is the file that we have been using. Open. Next. Again, the same mapping. You will see the same mapping when you click on edit data mapping. Everything is the same. And you have to import it as open, otherwise it will close out and it will fulfill the sales order. If you want to completely fulfill the sales order, which is basically saying that everything has actually been taken out and everything has actually been sent to the customer, and you want to reduce the quantity on hand and everything, that's when you import it as completed. But if you only want to do the payment, you pull it in as an open order, and when you hit import, and then it's going to take again like 5 to 10 seconds to come in and making sure that it's all proper. Okay. So if you see, paid is actually showing us that you did pay the $3 that I put in there. So if we see $3 and the $0 for what we didn't actually pay. So this is how you can make partial or payments in full for a sales order in inflow. And I'm very quickly going to show you, once payment is done, or irrespective of whether the payment is done, if you want to completely fulfill the order, meaning if you want to completely send the products out and you want to deduct it from your inventory, you do nothing but you import the sales order that you have open and next and as a completed sales order. And I'll show you exactly what that means. So I'm going to hit OK. Again, I'm going to hit refresh. Because it's been fulfilled, it will not be under an open order. So you'll be able to see it under all orders. And you see it has now been successfully fulfilled. for those products. So you see it has been fulfilled. And when I go to the actual clementines right here, you will see that the clementine was successfully deducted from the sales order. And that's how you do a sales order. I am done speaking. Kat, are there any questions that you need me to answer?
I don't believe so. I think Costa is really answering a lot of these things in the chats. He's going quite
That's good.
quick. Just a few key tips
Yes.
that I think are important. Number one, or the last one that Costa actually put in the chats, it's not possible to add or remove items in your purchase or sales orders through import. So this is definitely key. Again, also as Pooja mentioned, is just there's certain information you cannot update with these imports for sales orders and purchase orders. Things like product names, you wouldn't be able to really change it in there, quantities or serial numbers as well. Once it's created, it's kind of set there. And then with the import, you can change, fulfillment status and things like that Pooja went over. I'm just trying to see if there's anything else. Again, there's a lot of tips in here that Pooja covered both on the call itself and then Kostya's been mentioning in the chats. But if that's all, I guess, Pooja, and I can take over. Does that sound
If
good?
you can give me like 30 seconds,
Sure, of
very
course.
quickly wanted to share with just what the reorder sheet should look like. And very quickly, 30 seconds. So again, the same thing, product name, which is very important, location, where you want the product to be reordered to, what sub location you want the product to be reordered to. So let's say for the Fuji apple, of course, it's going to be the fruit section. So you can also put the default sub location where you want it to come in. Enable reordering, which is like, do you want to enable reordering? True, exactly. So true. If you don't want to enable reordering, false. And then the reorder point, the reorder quantity, at what point do you want inFlow to ask you to order more, and how many more? So let's say you want inFlow to ask you to order more at 5, but like place an order for 10 through a purchase order, which is your reorder method right there. You can mention it right there. And if you put in your vendor or your default vendor, it is going to, whenever you create the reorder, you create the purchase order through the reorder setting, it will by default take it to that vendor. And that's how you make the reorder sheet. Very quickly, if you at any point, if you have questions about how to do anything, just make a fake, thing, not a fake, but like just do a template product in the actual product, and like just to see what it's going to look like, then export the sheet just so that you have an idea of what the CSV sheet should look like. And that's it for me. I am done. Thank you so much for being so patient with me, everybody. I'm going to pass it on to Kat.
Thank you, Pooja. And yes, there is so much information. Again, Pooja is just one of the more seasoned CSMs. She has a lot of experience in this, and so of course she wants to share all of this information with you guys because there's quite a bit that's important. But if you have any questions, feel free, like she said, reach out to us as the CSMs or support. Now, I'm going to pivot a little bit. We're going to cover a few manufacturing imports that we can do. And some of you guys might be just using inFlow inventory. So this section won't be too long if you want to just stick around because we do have the quiz at the end with a little giveaway. So for my section, I will cover how to make updates to your bill of materials, how to make changes to your operations, and how to change the manufacturer settings. So let me just get started by sharing my screen here. And let me know if you can see that. Pooja, can you
Yes, all
confirm?
good.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm just only on
No,
the
no,
tab
all
for
good. Thanks.
info. Okay, awesome. So with the manufacturing, either product or if you have it as an add-on, you'll be able to change your bill of material settings. So if I go into my products right now, my database looks a little bit different. This is our sample information. I'm going to focus specifically on our chess board, just because I like to play chess, so it resonates with me. So I just searched up chess. I have my completed chess set, which has a chessboard. It has a bunch of the chess pieces and the chess set box. So my completed chess set is my finished product. And this is the one that I'm assembling or manufacturing, putting together. So I can see this setting just in the manufacturing tab here. And it's already been created because, again, today we're going to be going through how you can update this information. So in the manufacturing tab, I have my bill of materials with all my components. Each of these is set up as its own product. So that's what Pooja was showing earlier through the product details. You can set up the components, and then you would create the completed chess set as the finished product. Now, on the right side, we have our operations. So in this case, I have it set to, we paint the chess set and then we package it up. And we have our different operation costs in here. Of course, you can manually make these changes. And for some people, that is a little bit easier, especially when it comes to operations, because you can actually see what the settings look like. I find with the import, it can be a little bit trickier, but if you know how to use it and you feel comfortable using it, the imports can save you quite a bit of time, especially if you're making a lot of bulk changes. So we'll start off by exporting our bill of materials. So again, clicking on this gear icon, or you don't even have to click, you just hover over it. Export, which is step number 1. We select bill of materials in this case, and then export. Gonna give me a CSV file. Let me just open this up. Now I am on a Mac, so I don't want to open it up in numbers. I prefer using Excel. And in here, it's going to give me all the products I have, components, quantity unit of measure. This is the typical bill of materials sheet. Now, as you can see, I have a bunch of different products. So to make it easier for myself so I know what I'm working on, I'm actually going to filter my columns. So I'm going to add and remove filters here. And then I'm going to specifically select my chess set. So I'm going to unselect all, completed chess set. I'm just going to only look at this one right now. I'm not changing any of my other products. I'm just going to work with this one. So if we are making updates, there's a couple things we can do. We can either remove the information here for some of this, or we can update the quantity, or we can add another product that we want to have in this bill of materials. In this case, I'm just going to do a quick, simple change, and I'm going to change the quantity here. So instead of maybe having 2 kings, we're going to give them an extra set of kings and maybe the queens as well, just because, maybe those are pieces that people lose. So we'll include additional quantity in there. I'll make that change, and then I'll click save, and I can import that back. Now, as you saw, I had added a filter. There are still a bunch of other products on this sheet. Those, if I did make additional updates, so if I hadn't just filtered for my completed chess set, I could make updates to some of these other ones. And then I can just change it in the sheet. I can remove certain products again. So in this case, let me remove something off of the unicycle. I mean, we need pedals, but just for this example, let me remove it so I can show you what that would look like as well. So I'll save the sheet, and then I'm going to go ahead, import my bill of materials, and then I'll click next. And if we wanted to, I don't know, for some reason, not include a certain column, we would just edit the data mapping. In this case, your bill of materials, you will likely want to have all of the columns mapped. If you're not using quantity unit of measure, you can take that out, but really in this case, if you've never used quantity unit of measure, it won't really matter. So I'm going to click OK, give it a couple seconds, and then we'll go back to my products. In this case, let me start with the unicycle because I did do a change for that one. So unicycle, manufacturing, and as you can see, we don't have pedals. So if you make a change on that BOM file and you remove a line, it will also remove it from manufacturer settings. So that import will kind of override what exists in inFlow. Now, if we go to the completed chess set, in here, you'll notice that our quantity changed for the knights and the queens. So instead of having 2 of each, we had 4. Again, we're including extra pieces just in case people lose them because those are quite important, and we've changed the quantity. So it's pretty straightforward there. Now, the operations and the manufacturer settings, they exist on different sheets. So the reason that you didn't see me update those is because we didn't have columns for those in our bill of materials file. So we're going to do those separately. So next, I'm going to change manufacturer settings. Now, to give you guys a quick summary, manufacturer settings is what allows you to kind of tell inFlow how these products are being either manufactured or assembled. So in this case, if you are assembling products manually and you want to create a MO, a manufacturer order for each time when you assemble or when you manufacture the product, you will keep it to this default setting. But sometimes you might create products that are really just a combination of things you pick. They're ready. You don't need to manufacture really do too much. You just assemble whatever package you're coming up with and you're selling. We have the option to auto assemble after sale. What this does is when you create the sales order and you fulfill the sales order, it will create the MO on the back end. So this is if you don't want to be creating manufacturer orders manually and you want them automatically created, we have that setting here. And then right below that, we have a setting on how your quantities appear on your product page. So you can either separate out your quantities or combine quantities. As you can see, we have a little blurb here that says we recommend for bundles that you combine quantities. So if you auto assemble, we recommend combining quantities for your settings because this will allow you to see what's the possibility, what's possible for us to actually manufacture. It won't just take a look at what you've already put together. So those are our settings here. The reason I explained all of this is just so you have a better idea of what kind of changes you can make on your manufacturer settings. Now, if we go on the export option, we see our little pop-up, we go through our data types, you likely won't see that there's manufacturer settings on here. And this is the one thing that can be a little bit tricky for some people to remember because it is in the product details. So that's where the manufacturer settings are located. If I export the product details right now, it's going to be kind of at the end of our spreadsheet. So let me open this up. And actually, let me make sure that this is the correct one. I've done a lot of exports. So let me open that. I'm not going to convert. And if we go all the way to the right side here, you guys will see that the almost last two columns, so obviously is active is the last one, but the one right before that is combined quantities and auto manufacture. So those are what's going to dictate your manufacturer settings. So by default, both of those are set to false, which means that, just to kind of go back to inFlow here, false means that you're going to manually assemble your products. Oh, give me a second. There we go. That you're going to manually assemble your products and then that you're going to keep your separate quantities. So that's what that false option dictates. Now, if you change this to true, it's going to change it to the other setting. So in this case, if you want to auto manufacture, meaning that you want to have it automatically assembled at the point of the sales order, you would change that to true. Now, in this case, I only want to do it again for my completed chess set. So I can just search for that in here. Completed chess set, it's right at the bottom. And so this is where I'm going to change my settings. And I'm actually going to change both of them to true. Because as you saw, if we are auto-assembling our products, we recommend combining quantities as well. So that's the one that I'm going to make the changes to. I'm going to save this. And again, as a reminder, these settings are located in your product details. So that's the data type you're going to import back in. So let me just find product details 11. Next. Now, if you want to make sure nothing else is updated, you can really go ahead and clear out the rest of the fields. So this ensures that any other changes that you might have accidentally made don't actually update the product information. This also goes back to, I think it was Mindy's question originally of what happens if you leave something blank. So that we can ensure that it doesn't update, you can clear all of this, or if it's easier for you, you can just delete those columns on the Excel so that you don't have to do this process that I'm doing right now of just clearing the mapping. So in this case, clear, I'm almost there. I'm doing it the long way here. And again, we're just gonna leave these three. So these three and product name. Product name is always required. You wouldn't be able to import without it because then it wouldn't know where to link to. So I'm gonna go ahead and import. And then we will just refresh the page, give it those couple of seconds so that it can make the update. And then if I go into manufacturing and manufacturer settings, you'll see that both of those were changed. So this is really good if you're just starting out with inFlow. All of these are maybe set to the default options and you want to change all of them to auto assemble and combining quantities. You can do that via the spreadsheet. Now, the last thing I want to cover, just a couple more seconds here, is the operations. Now, a lot of the time, you'll want to create these operations through an import when you're first starting out with inFlow, and we do cover that in the last webinar as well. But for today's webinar, again, we're just updating. So in this case, we will export our operations, export here, and then I'm going to just make a small update within the operations file. So to make it easy, let me see. Completed chess set is right here. We have two different operations. So instead of packaging, I'm going to call it assembly. And maybe let me create one more step in here. So I'm going to insert, again, I'm just going to repeat the product name. And then let me think of what other thing that we can do. Write a thank you note. Because we want to offer amazing customer service. We want to add a little thank you note for anyone who purchased our completed chess set. Again, this operation per hour cost is per hour. So you want to make sure that we were putting, let's say maybe it's $10 an hour, and then estimated time in minutes, in seconds. So this is where we got to be careful. So for example, if it's going to take me 2 minutes to write the note, 2 minutes is 120 seconds. So we'll add that in here. I'll save. And then we are just going to import this back into inFlow. And we are done in updating our information. So operations. Next. I'm not going to change the data mapping, but you can always click in here just to make sure it's correctly mapped. Import it. And then let's refresh one last time here. And then go into manufacturing. And we can see our operations on the right. So we have painting, assembly, and write a thank you note. And we can see what our operation costs are. So again, before it said painting, and then I think this was packaging, I changed it to assembly via the import. So hopefully that's simple and easy for you guys. I guess, are there any questions? Let me see.
We had a couple, but honestly, just you did actually
Kostya answered a lot of them.
Kostya actually did answer a lot of them. There are also some questions which I feel like, again, you have any workflow type questions. If they're specifically workflow as to like how do I use manufacturing with my business or with my day-to-day activities, feel free to reach out to your CSM, because all of us were great at like explaining, understanding our workflow and giving you workarounds, or telling you how to helping you out how to do that. So feel free to reach out to your CSM as well. But like, yeah, the questions were very generous, like how do we delete columns? Like if you can delete columns, will they not be affected? So like, yeah, that goes for like all imports. So like if you don't want to import anything, you can just either leave them blank in the mapping phase, or you just delete the columns altogether. But thank you guys for being so patient. And yes, this recording will be available eventually. I think by the end of the week usually, but yes, it will be on our YouTube channel. But thank you so much for your participation and everything. And we hope to see you guys in the next webinar. That's a different one. That's an interesting one. So excited about that. Okay.
Awesome.
Thank
Thank you
you.
guys. See
Bye-bye.
ya. Bye.